Hello everyone, I am back with this week's video. Thank you all for joining me. And before I get started on the main topic, I would like to remind everybody to submit your questions for the upcoming question and answers video. I don't know when I'm going to be doing the next one, but if you want to submit questions for that, you can submit those questions to the email address listed down below in the description box. And look forward to having all of those from you. But with all that said, let's go ahead and get started. And this is kind of building off something that I talked about in last week's video, where I talked about how wrestling television on a weekly basis, and that's both AEW and WWE, the matches on those shows are largely inconsequential. They are way too long. They are mostly pointless. The outcomes are predictable. They've become like, you know, for all this talk about in-ring work and in-ring action, all this other stuff, all of that stuff has kind of become the least important part of the show and the least interesting part of the show, because they just jam the entire show with nothing but in-ring action, and it's the angles, the promos, and things like that that are becoming the more worthwhile things to watch. It's like Vince Russo has been proven right once again, and while I don't agree with everything that Russo did or every single stance that Russo has, I will say that, like, his general idea that, like, and he said it a lot on the, you know, Who Killed WCW documentary of, he's writing a television show and he's got to make it interesting for a television audience. And I think there's nuggets of truth to that statement. Well, not truth, because he's not. I don't think Russo's lying about anything that he believes, but it's more like there's kernels of value in what he's saying there, where it's like you have to present the show in a way that is interesting for a television audience. And the modern wrestling product, whether it's good or bad, it's kind of like, when I think of the Monday Night Wars period, I think of two shows when they were at their peak. When Raw was at its best, so let's say 97, 98 Raw was what I enjoyed the most. And WCW Nitro, which was like, you know, Scott Hall's debut all the way to like about December 97. And if you want to give it a little bit more, you would push it all the way to like Goldberg's title victory over Hogan in 98. When I think of those two shows, I think of two shows that perfectly reflected the pop culture and society at that time, and kind of went hand in hand with the two. I think of wrestling now, and it's basically a niche product for kids, nerds, and, well, nerds, people like myself who've been watching wrestling their entire lives. Like, I just don't see, like, you know, a 23-year-old flipping through the channel. Well, I mean, who flips through channels anymore? I don't know. But it's like, who's gonna, like, you know, check out wrestling for the first time when they're already an adult and be like, no, thank you. It's like, they're gonna get kids while they're young, and they already have that established hardcore fan base that's gonna watch it no matter what. So, I don't know. Like, it's a product that seems like out of touch. And again, this is both, because they've relied so heavily on just pushing in-ring action, you know, all show long, and it's like star ratings and all this other stuff, and that just lends itself more to, like, you know, nerds and the niche product element of professional wrestling, when I remember a time when professional wrestling was the hottest show on TV. So when I watch the modern products, and that's I want to get this out there too, I mean, another problem with both AEW and WWE is that they have way too much programming. And I think, you know, when you look at AEW specifically, like, the major, like, dents in the armor for AEW was, like, losing Cody, the whole fiasco with CM Punk, and then I would throw the other one in there, and Ring of Honor kind of ties into this, but the amount of programming that they produce on a weekly basis just devalued the product. Made it far less exciting. And I think, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers with me, and I'm sure there's a direct correlation between when, like, Collision started and when, like, Rampage started, and how that started to chip away at Dynamite's numbers, because Dynamite was, you know, at a certain place when it first started, and now it's like that audience feels like it's been cut in half, and it's like, well, yeah, because it's not Destination TV anymore, because they're on 3 nights of the week, and it's like, who cares? It's not exciting anymore. And WWE's I've been complaining about that with WWE for years. They have too much programming. And again, they have spells where it's good, they have spells where it's downright awful, but it doesn't matter when there's so much of it. It's impossible to expect a normal person to keep up with it. And again, this ties back into what I say about how it's a niche product for kids and nerds, it's like, look, like, unless you're a diehard fan of this stuff, no normal human being is going to watch all this stuff. So that's my soapbox little rant about how, like, the shows are too long, the matches are too long, and they're not put together in a way that's exciting for the modern audience. And that's why when Rock came back and he did all that stuff with Cody, it was like, oh my God, what are they doing over there? It's like, yeah, because this is actually like a television show. This actually works as a television show, and it's exciting, and it added so much to WrestleMania, and it paid off so well. And it's like, that's why Rock is one of the GOATs. So, like, you need more examples right there. But as I fast forward through most episodes of wrestling television these days, I have certain people that, certain performers that'll pop up, and when I see them pop up on the screen, I'm like, okay, stop. I want to see what this person is doing. And those are the ones that I'm genuinely excited by. It's like, all right, I want to see these people. And these are the ones that I'm excited to watch, and I want to see more of, and I want to see them in exciting situations and exciting storylines to build to exciting matches at the pay-per-views. And so I'm going to do a top 10 list of the guys that I enjoy seeing the most as I'm fast-forwarding through most of these shows. And the ones that I stop the fast-forward button on, the ones that I hit play on, is like, I want to see these guys, I want to see what they do. And you know, I feel like... you know, going back to what I said earlier about, like, the matches not mattering anymore, what's everybody talking about on WWE now? It's the Dirty Dom and Liv Morgan stuff. It's the Wyatt Six stuff. They haven't even had a match yet. That's the type of stuff that gets headlines and gets people talking. So I was like, I don't know. But hey, you get your long matches and your star ratings. It's fine. But anyway, so I've comprised a list of the top 10 wrestling performers that are on the active rosters right now. So nobody that's injured, nobody that's off TV. The ones who are currently on weekly programming, and the ones that I enjoy watching the most. This isn't ranked in any way. There's no, like, official ranking to any of this. This is just 10 names as they came up to me while I was putting the list together. So don't think of it as like I'm ranking these people or anything. These are just 10 people that when I'm fast forwarding through the show and I see them pop up, I immediately stop and hit play to kind of see what these people are doing, because these people legitimately entertain me. So, the first person I'm going to list on here is RTruth, who is somebody that I was never a big fan of back in, like, going back to the TNA days. And they pushed him as a world champion. I was like, I don't get it. He's like a second-rate Booker T. Why are we doing this? I don't get it. Never saw the big deal in him. I remember when they pushed him against John Cena and he main evented that pay-per-view, and I was like, but why though? I don't get it. What am I not getting with RTruth? And his was up thing, I always thought that sucked. I just was never a big fan of the guy. Until he started doing the 24/7 stuff, which was kind of funny. And I was like, okay, it's a pointless title, it's a meaningless title, but at least he's getting a few chuckles out of me from it. But lately, ever since he did the Judgment Day storyline heading into WrestleMania, I'm like, okay, this guy is one of the most entertaining people in wrestling right now. I legitimately love watching RTruth now. And I talked about it at WrestleMania, which is like, you got this 8-man ladder match, or whatever it was, I forget, but... you know, if there were more than 4 people, there might as well have been 100 people. Who cares? Because that's how I feel about multi-person ladder matches now. But I was like, all these death-defying stunts and spots that they're doing with the ladders, I'm like, the best part of the entire match was RTruth acting like it was a real tag match. That was the best part. So even though we're kind of past the Judgment Day stuff right now, even though they do reference it, like, he's tagging with Miz right now, but it's like, dude, every time he's on TV, he does something that makes me laugh. So it's like, all right, I'm up for a good chuckle. I'll watch some RTruth. So RTruth, you know, the slow and steady won that race. He's actually one of my favorite people to watch now, and it came entirely through being funny and entertaining. Next up on the list is L.A. Knight. Yeah! A guy who really caught fire in 2023 and lost a lot of momentum when they put him up against Roman Reigns and did that stupid match that really halted his momentum, but he has maintained one of the most entertaining and interesting characters on the show, and it's entirely through his presentation and his catchphrases. And they've got him doing something interesting finally, where he's like, it looks like he's going to go after Logan Paul and face him for the U.S. title at SummerSlam, where hopefully he will win, walk out with some gold, and help reestablish LA Knight as one of the top guys in the WWE. But whenever I watch SmackDown, LA Knight is easily one of the guys I always stop on. Next up is a Raw superstar. That would be Chad Gable, who was back this week on Raw despite being murdered the week before. Go figure. I don't know. But that's another problem with pro wrestling. The only injuries that seem to matter are the ones that are legitimate. And it's like, if you do a storyline injury, shouldn't they be off TV the next week? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But anyway, Chad Gable, who's been one of the most interesting characters ever since he turned heel, and through his jealousy over Sami Zayn winning the Intercontinental title and his abuse of his own stable in the Alpha Academy, it was one of the better storylines in Raw going lately, and it built up quite nicely to where Otis and Maxine finally turned against him and finally broke up the Alpha Academy, which was a good moment that felt like a satisfying payoff to something they were doing, and now we can potentially get matches between Otis and Chad and various other things moving forward, so we'll have to see where all that goes. But yeah, Chad Gable, has always been a really good worker. I loved him as part of Alpha Academy, and he's always been a very talented in-ring worker, but right now he's doing some of the best work of his career because they're actually having him do something interesting to make his matches more interesting. What a novel concept. Next up, we have our first AEW talent. That would be the current AEW Women's Champion, Toni Storm, who, ever since she switched over to this timeless Toni Storm gimmick, I have absolutely loved it. And again, as I'm fast-forwarding through these shows, I always stop on her because I know she's going to say something crazy. And I love that. And she's so much fun to watch. She's playing this character to the hilt. And she's easily one of the most interesting and exciting personas and characters in AEW, a company that's not known for having exciting characters and personas because they focus so heavily on the in-ring action that a lot of people don't get over as actual personas and are just vessels for athleticism and spots. But Toni Storm is like, man, if only we had a bunch of talents like her, we'd be in much better shape over in AEW land right now. But yeah, she does exactly what she needs to do to make her matches more exciting. She's fun to watch. She's fun to listen to. And yeah, I just adore her. I think she's great. And next up is another AEW talent, actually the biggest AEW talent. Well, the one in the highest position. That would be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Swerve Strickland. Whose house? Swerve's house. Admittedly, I liked him better before he won the title and they started pushing him as a babyface because I think he's lost a lot of his edge. I liked him last year more when he was like this dangerous guy that was like, threatening babies and like attempting to murder people, that type of stuff. That made him a lot more dangerous. And I feel like they could have transitioned him into a babyface a little bit better and made him more of a Stone Cold Steve Austin type babyface, where it's like he's still violent, scary, and dangerous. He just turns all that venom towards heels. I do feel like they softened him up a little too much, but he's still, I'm glad he got the belt. He was the best option at that time for sure. And personally, I wish he had been the one to dethrone MJF for the belt instead of Samoa Joe, but that's neither here nor there. But overall, like, he feels important. Whatever he's doing on AEW feels the most important out of everything that goes on those shows, and he looks good with the belt, so there's that. And he's not bad as a babyface. I just wish they hadn't softened him up as much as they did. But overall, it's like, I was very happy for him. He's a guy that got over, and they rewarded him with the belt. It's like, hey, you can't complain about that. That's nice, at least. And next up is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, Gunther. Formerly Walter. I never thought I would get used to Gunther, but I actually have. I think I still prefer Walter, but Gunther works. It's a fine name. But yeah, he's just a badass that beats the crap out of people, and I like a good Haas every now and then, and he's believable in the role, does it well, and generally has some of the better matches come pay-per-view time. Like that three-way he had at WrestleMania last year was an absolute banger, and a lot of good stuff there. But it's like, yeah, they ran with him so long as Intercontinental Champion, got a really good reign out of him. Now it's like there's this exciting element. It's like, okay, when's he going to go for the big belt? When's he going to go? Because it feels like he should kind of be there at this point. So here's hoping that happens. But yeah, Gunther, definitely one of my favorites to watch. And here's another AEW guy, their big signing from earlier this year, Will Osprey, the aerial assassin. A few years ago when Osprey was first catching on, I was like, yeah, he's a great athlete, but I don't know if he's just going to be one of those flip-floppy guys that doesn't really evolve past that. It feels like he's evolved past that to where he looks like a star now, and he actually carries himself like a star. My biggest criticism on how he's handled is that I wish, instead of having him go out there every week and have 4 or 5 star matches or whatever, he should be beating people fairly convincingly. And I think that would do a lot more for him if he went out there and just beat people in 6-7 minutes and make him look great, instead of like having every match he does go 20-30 minutes. And it just kind of like, it devalues what those matches are really like. Because ideally what you would want is that he beats a bunch of people convincingly, and then come pay-per-view time, like his upcoming match with Swerve Strickland, that would be the hyper-competitive match, because now it's like, oh god, who's going to win that match? Because ideally, Swerve would have beaten a lot of people, and Will Osprey would have beaten a lot of people, and now you have these two seemingly unbeatable guys, and they're going to have a big match. And it's little things like that that make matches seem a lot more interesting and exciting, whereas, you know, if everybody works the Kurt Angle, back and forth, finisher, kick-out, 20-minute match, nobody really gets over. Again, that's one of my problems with modern wrestling. I wish they would cut back on that with Osprey and just let him beat people. Just let him beat somebody in 30 seconds and see how that gets over. But you know, it is what it is. But still, it's like he feels like a big deal. He looks like a star, and feels like one of the bigger names in AEW. And he's presented generally well. So whenever I'm fast forwarding, he's one that I stop on, because I know whatever he's doing is going to be interesting or exciting. Now, next up is a guy that I've been high on for years. I liked him when he first came in. I don't like the name. I still don't like the name. But I was a big fan of his dad and his uncle, the Steiner brothers, and that is Braun Breaker. I wish they had just renamed him Rex Steiner, because Rex Steiner is such a cooler name. But in any case, he looks like the perfect amalgamation of his dad and his uncle. Like, he looks more like Scott than his dad, but he has kind of that tenacious bulldog element that his dad had. So it's kind of like, he's like a perfect marriage of the best attributes of both guys. And lately they've been having novel concept. He's been murdering people, like just mowing through them left and right. It's just a absolute freak of nature. They've been having him squash people and doing it in ways where it puts over his athleticism, what makes him such a freak of nature compared to everybody else on the roster. And because of that, Braun Breaker is one of my favorite people to watch on Raw every week. I look forward to his matches. Crazy concept. And I love watching the guy. I think he should be a title holder sooner rather than later. I think there's a lot of Raw potential there. He is there are certain guys with potential where I'll describe them as like, they're like unmolded clay. They're just waiting to find that thing to kind of shape their identity and make them who they are, who they need to become big stars. And Braun Breaker, he's starting to mold a little bit. He's turning into something. It's almost like a modern day Goldberg in a good way, where he's just this monster that mows over people. And I think they could get a lot of mileage out of him. He looks great, sounds great. A lot of fun to watch. I see a lot of potential in Braun Breaker. And, it's paying off now because I enjoy watching him more than most. And the 9th name on this list is the recent return to AEW, MJF. Thank God that man is back, because he is instantly makes Dynamite more exciting whenever he's around, whether he's cutting promos or having matches. I mean, I don't know why they're having him wrestle random people at the upcoming pay-per-view. I don't understand that at all, but it's the show is a lot more exciting when MJF is there than when he's not there. And I think he has been sorely missed in 2024. So it's great to have him back. Great to have him doing what he does best, which is cut awesome promos and be this awesome personality that helps shape things moving forward. Now, I just hope that they find something exciting to do with him. I mean, we got the Dome show coming up in August, Wembley Stadium, and it's like, okay, let's actually have a hot program for MJF and let him tear the house down at Wembley Stadium again, and have him a hot program that people can really sink their teeth into, because this stuff he's doing right now on TV, it's like, I mean, yeah, I'm watching it because it's MJF, but it's like, he's just fighting random people. Let's actually have a storyline for him to really cut loose in. So we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, MJF, right now I'm just in the honeymoon phase of just being glad to have him back, and hopefully they can, after Forbidden Door, they can move him on to something more exciting. And finally, the 10th name on the list is the current WWE champion, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. And again, like, with baby faces, the money's always in the chase. That's the thing that everybody says. It's always in the chase when they're the champion. It's more exciting to watch them chase for the title and win the title than it is to see them actually hold it. And he's been champion for a couple of months. And it's like, the stuff with AJ is not bad. I've kind of enjoyed it. It's fine, but it's not like setting the world on fire or anything. But Cody's still in this period where it's like, everything he does whenever he comes out, he feels like the biggest star on the show. So I feel like I have to stop. Again, when I'm fast forwarding, I have to stop on Cody because whatever Cody's doing is exciting and good. And I've been a supporter of Cody for years, and I'm glad to see that he has paid off and he's being treated like the big star that I always felt he could be. I've been high on Cody almost from day one when he got to WWE. I just saw something in him, and I'm like, that guy gives 110% in everything they give him, and it's nice to see all of that pay off. And now he's the biggest star in the WWE, a company that nobody ever thought he would go back to after the run in AEW. But yeah, Cody is just, he's an eye catcher for sure. Now, how would this list be adjusted, a month from now? I don't know. Like, when's Roman coming back? When Roman comes back, he would probably be added to that list. Certain names, like Britt Baker came back, tomorrow or something, like she would probably jump up on that list because, man, like she was like one of the hottest things in women's wrestling for a while there. And then, she obviously got hurt and things. So hopefully she comes back soon. CM Punk would probably be on that list, but he's hurt right now. So, we're just kind of waiting for him to come back, have that match with Drew. So it's, this is a type of list that could probably potentially change next week. Who knows? But I was just thinking, it's like, man, who are the ones that I actually enjoy watching when I'm, sitting there with the clicker and just kind of skipping to the parts that I want to watch. And those are the guys that I stop on the most, or at least have been for the last few weeks or so. And, and notice that very little of it has to do with the actual matches. And if it does, it's like Braun Breaker because he's squashing people, And I feel like the television shows should be geared more towards promos, angles, and quick matches, quick, exciting matches to kind of get moves over, get personalities over, and things like that. If you don't want to do full-on squash matches like they were back in the day, at least like keep them like one segment, like 5 to 7 minutes, keep them short, and just let guys get over. And then come pay-per-view time, that's where all the Supremo matches should be. That's where you get like all the exciting pairings and all the things like, oh, so-and-so's been dominating for a month. Or, oh, this character's really come on strong in a month. Now they're going to be mixing it up with people. It's really like, again, I don't know what it is with wrestling programming, but they just they seem to, I don't know, like getting in their own way with certain things. It's not like, I'm not talking like bad creative. I'm talking like the formatting and like really overextending the ring time on a weekly basis with so much programming to fill. And I guess that's the reason they do it, because it's like, look, we've got so much programming to fill. What else are we going to fill it with? But I don't know, like I could probably, and I've had people say it's, AEW fans tell me this. It's like, look, if they didn't have Collision or Rampage, certain people wouldn't get a shot on TV. And I'm like, the obvious solution to that problem is to shorten the matches on Dynamite. Then you'd make more room for people. And I don't think everybody should be on every single episode anyway. I think there's room to like leave people off for a week and make it, have a more interesting and exciting rotation. That's something I've been saying for years, but I think I've ranted enough. I think I've made my point. I've made my case. So it's, that is all I have for you now. Again, if you want to submit questions for the Q&A video coming up, you can submit them to the email address that is listed down below in the description. And I will let you know when that video is going to be ready. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you all later.